Chapter 12, Section 6 is solving inequalities with multiplication and division. Now what you see absent from this set of questions, unlike the previous day's questions, is all the spots to graph are gone. All we're asked to do is to solve the inequalities here. The top 6 questions are division questions as set up, so they'll be solved with multiplication. The next 6 questions are multiplication questions as set up, so they'll be solved with division. We're going to go ahead and focus on the middle part there, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Start with number 4. T divided by negative 6 is less than negative 7. Remember, we solve these just like we solve equations, rather. So we're going to treat that inequality sign, less than in this particular question, just like equals, and go from there. So T divided by negative 6 is less than negative 7. Well, keep the variable on the left and the number on the right. So we see the thing that's not marked off there is the negative 6, which is what's going to have to move. Since I'm dividing by negative 6, and I know that's a number that's got to go to the opposite side, I'm going to do the opposite, which is to multiply both sides by negative 6. Again, since all of these questions in this section here are division, they're all going to get solved with multiplication. So I've got T, and I've got negative 7 and negative 6 there. That's going to give me negative 42. Now, you have to remember that one little tricky rule there from the instruction today that says when we multiply or divide by a negative, that's going to flip the direction of the inequality sign. And that's why I was not so keen on jumping on throwing down less than here. The number that I multiplied both sides by was negative 6. Because that's a negative number, that's going to flip my inequality sign around. So instead of pointing to the left, it's now going to point to the right, and it's going to be greater than. Again, it's the number that you're multiplying or dividing by. The fact that this 7 was negative is not important. It's the fact that I multiplied by negative 6. That's the number I multiplied both sides by. That's the one that causes the sign to flip. S over negative 12 is less than or equal to negative 5. So I'm dividing by negative 12 in this one, so I'm going to undo this one by multiplying both sides by negative 12. Again, as I said a moment ago, all these are set up the same in this particular row here, so we're doing the same thing basically in every one. So I've got S, and negative 5 and negative 12 makes positive 60, and again, that's going to flip the direction of the inequality sign around. So it's not going to be less than or equal to, it's actually going to be greater than or equal to. Again, why? Because the number that I'm multiplying both sides by happened to be negative. All right, let's go ahead and get number 6 then. We've got R over 5.3 is less than or equal to 6. All right, so if we take a look at this one here, multiplying both sides by 5.3 to solve. The divide and multiply by 5.3 cancels each out and leaves me R. There is no negative in the mix here, so the sign stays the same. And I've got 6 times 5.3. 6 times 5.3 is going to give me 31.8. So R is less than or equal to 31.8. Again, notice I'm using the exact same techniques with solving inequalities that I did with equations. It's just a different sign. All right, let's go to number 7. 8c is less than negative 64. So variable on the left, so the variable c is going to stay on the left side, and numbers on the right, so negative 64 is going to stay on the right side. So we see the one thing that's wrong here is the 8. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8 here, and so I've got negative 64 divided by 8, which is negative 8. So c is less than negative 8. Now you might be saying, well, wait a minute, why didn't you flip the sign there? The negative 64 is not the number I divided by. I divided both sides by 8. The 8 being negative would make that flip around. But 8 was not negative when we divided it out. It was positive. So that's why it's just c is less than negative 8. Negative 16a is greater than or equal to negative 24. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 16 to solve this one. Again, keeping that variable a on the left and keeping negative 24 on the right, just like it's supposed to be. And so that's going to give me a, and 24 over 16, they're both negatives. The negatives will cancel each other out and give me a positive. 24 over 16, that's going to give me 3 over 2. Or if you want to write it as 1.5, you can. And again, I divided by a negative, so that's going to flip the inequality sign. So greater than or equal to is going to become less than or equal to. A is less than or equal to 3 over 2. Number 9, keep the variable t on the left, keep the number 9 on the right, so the negative 12 has to move. Opposite side, do the opposite. Since I'm multiplying by negative 12, I'm going to do the opposite, which is to divide by negative 12. 9 divided by negative 12 is going to give me negative 3/4. And of course here we divided by a negative, so that's going to flip my sign around. So I'm going to have t is less than negative 3/4, or t is less than negative 0.75.